I find myself frustrated whenever I watch these pack opening channels and they feel the need to iterate in every single video. Well, you're not guaranteed to get a holo in this set. And then I realize that it might be condescending of me to think that this is even common knowledge. It doesn't take into account newer players and when someone actually got into the game, and the fact that not everyone has experienced the evolution of this game and its products over the years organically as they were released like I have. I'm really weird about this because I have this weird encyclopedic knowledge of cards and what sets they were released in. You can pretty much name any card and I'll be able to tell you what sets it was released in and maybe some of its reprints. Michelle often remarks at how impressive and dorky this is at the same time, even though she can do the same thing for Pokemon. If you name a Pokemon, she'll be able to tell you what gen it came from. So I really wanted to make this video for a long time, sort of a guide to rarities, and I'm glad I waited because even more rarities have come out since the initial idea for this video was made. And this video is going to be strictly about TCG rarities. So the OCG has even more arbitrary rarities than the TCG does, and I'll show off a couple of those, especially for comparison's sake, but it's not going to be a complete comprehensive guide to every rarity ever, period. It's just going to be every single rarity in the TCG. And so we're going to go through and talk about all of the different sets and how rarities were released within those sets. But before we do that, we need to define each rarity and what it looks like and how to define it. So I really wanted to make sure for this video that I showed all of these cards up close on the same camera in good lighting as best I could. Some of these rarities I do not own, so you'll have to forgive me for that. But I find with a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! Related videos, most people just use stock images of the card in their video. And depending on the source, it can vary in quality, in resolution, in lighting. Sometimes it's not even a photograph of the real card. It's just a stock image of what the card would look like. And so I really wanted to make sure that for the best possible analog you guys could have to figure out how these are supposed to look, I wanted to make sure I showed them all in the same controlled environment. So that's what I'm going for here. Commons are pretty self-explanatory. There's no foil on a common whatsoever, with the exception of the little stamp here in the corner of authenticity with the little Eye of Anubis in there. This is one of the things that is very difficult to fake about a Yu-Gi-Oh card, and one of the markers you should look for when I'm trying to identify fakes. And on a first edition or limited edition card, this stamp will be in gold, and on an unlimited edition it will be in silver. A little fun fact about this, a lot of the early tournament pack cards, like TP1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, featured a gold stamp in the corner even though they were not first edition, because those tournament pack cards did not have multiple printings or any additions to speak of. So if you see an old tournament pack common with a gold stamp in the corner but it doesn't say first edition, it's not a misprint, that's just how they were back in the day. Some of the more sought after commons in the early sets were printed as short prints and were listed as such on a lot of sites that bought and sold cards back in the day, and sometimes would fetch a higher price than your average common because they were printed short. But there's nothing different about the surface of the card or any additional foiling to indicate that it's a short print. Next we move on to rares. Back in the early era of Yu-Gi-Oh! Each set would have a guaranteed one rare per pack. And the only thing different about a rare compared to a common is the name, the lettering of the name up to the top is in silver foil, and there's no foil on the rest of the card. Next we have super rares, the first full foil artwork cards where the artwork is in foil as you can see here, and the name is now not foil. So you have a regular flat non-foil name and a foil image for super rares. Next we have my personal favorite rarity, which is ultra rare. Ultra rares have a foil image just like super rare, but instead now their name is also in foil, and it's in gold foil as opposed to silver with regular rares. This to me is the most appealing foil out of all the Yu-Gi-Oh! Rarities in my personal opinion. A lot of my favorite cards are in this rarity. This is my original Metal Raiders Solemn Judgment that's still in perfect condition, even though I've actually played with it pretty much since the game came out. I remember pulling this from a pack back in 2003. A side note about ultra rares is that the side set Duelist Saga was an all ultra rare set and had a proprietary difference about their ultra rares than a regular ultra rare would, so I decided to do a side by side here. Here's a regular ultra rare soul charge and then a Duelist Saga ultra rare soul charge. Again, there's nothing different about the rarity from a listing standpoint on a website if you're searching for these. But just know if you see the horizontal foil lines on the ultra rare, it's not any kind of special rarity. It's just the Duelist Saga ultra rares, which I don't think looks bad, but it definitely is a marker of that set, and you know exactly which set it came from whenever you see that. Next, we have the rarity most sought after in the early days of the game, Secret Rare. And so it started out with the game that there were only 2 secret rares per pack. This is my original Invasion of Chaos First Edition Chaos Emperor Dragon, and is one of the crown jewels of my collection. I may actually try to get this card graded because it is in perfect condition, not a single bend, nothing wrong with the surface, but I'm not trying to brag exactly. So with a secret rare, the image is in a multicolored holographic foiling for the name, and then the image itself is holographic with diagonal foil lines going through it, so like sort of diagonal sparkles, as you can see right there. I'll bring the image a little bit closer and let the camera focus in on it. That's what a secret rare looks like. For some reason in the OCG, secret rares had foil lines that would go vertical and horizontal rather than diagonally, and you can see that here on this Perfectly Ultimate Great Moth, which was a video game promo. And back in the day, websites that would buy and sell cards, or magazines that would list card prices and rarities back in the day, would list this as actually a separate rarity. We sort of had an unofficial term for this called promo foil secret rare, and a lot of the early video game promos were in promo foil secret rare like this. This rarity would not be seen again until the Zexal era with the set World Superstars, which would bring back this promo foil secret rare stylized like the OCG that did not have the diagonal lines. It has the vertical and horizontal. And then we would see the vertical and horizontal lines for the secret rares again in 2019 with the Prismatic secret rare we got in the 2019 tins. Next we have Ultimate Rare. Now Ultimate Rare has been around in the OCG since the very beginning of the game, but we didn't get Ultimate Rare in the TCG until Soul of the Duelist, which I'll talk about later in the video. But the Ultimate Rares are one of the most notoriously difficult rarities to photograph, but they're one of the most sought after by collectors. This rarity is fully embossed, and everything on the image, including the border, is in embossed foil. The level, the stars for the level are all embossed foil as well, and so is the icon here for the attribute, or if it was a spell or trap card, the icon would still be embossed, and of course so is the name as well. Again, these look beautiful in person, but are very difficult to photograph. And here's a side-by-side with the original Ultra Rare Red Dragon Archfiend to kind of give you guys an idea of how that embossing really makes that image pop out. Very, very impressive from a printing standpoint. A lot of work and a lot of attention to detail went into manufacturing these, and it's quite impressive from that standpoint. Although one thing that is noteworthy is because there's so much foil and there is the embossing in Ultimate Rares, they are notoriously very thin and they feel like they're very easy to bend. And another thing that's very noteworthy of them is a lot of times on the back you can actually see the layer of where the image is, because there's so much foil and such little cardstock in there. So something to keep in mind about Ultimate Rares is they are notoriously difficult to keep in good condition. Next we have Parallel Rare. Now this rarity again was originally not released in the TCG, and I actually do not have a TCG Parallel Rare to use as an example. There are only a few Parallel Rares in English, and most of them are Hobby League promos, such as Card of Safe Return and Sangen. But here's a Japanese tournament pack example of a Parallel Rare, and so essentially what we have is a super rare underneath, and then we have this additional layer of foil on top of that that gives us almost like the secret rare vertical and horizontal lines across the entire surface of the card. You have to be very careful with this because it's almost like a layer of foil that could potentially peel off the surface if you're not careful. I've seen that with Parallel Rares in the past, and this is very susceptible to getting fingerprints on it as well because it is highly, highly glossy. So if you own a Parallel Rare, make sure to be very, very gentle with it. Next we have Ghost Rare, which, again, Ghost Rares were only alternate versions of the cover card of each set they were released in, and the holographic, this is actually known as holographic rare in Japan as well, but something interesting to note about Ghost Rare is, again, when the light is directly on it like that, the image is almost completely invisible. And then when the light hits it a certain way, it almost gives you this 3D effect where you can see the front layer and the back layer of the card's artwork. So it almost kind of obscures the artwork in a way, but it is very sought after by collectors because only one card per set was printed in Ghost Rare. These are pretty easy to keep in good condition, unlike Ultimate Rares. They don't have... There's about the same amount of foiling as an Ultra Rare or a Secret Rare. They don't have quite as many problems as Ultimate Rares do. They're also not really prone to warping from what I've seen, but I own very few Ghost Rares, so I try to keep them all in very good condition. And something I figured I would point out now that we're showing off an Arc 5 era card is once they introduced pendulum monsters and the frame of the cards changed again, they actually changed the location of the edition on the card. So previously right there where my thumb is where the first edition would be on this card, but now it's located down here at the bottom. So that was something that was introduced in the Arc 5 era post-pendulums. When the Gold Series sets were first introduced, each pack would contain 12 commons and 3 what they would call Gold Series Ultra Rares, and that's what this is right here. As you will notice, the image is still in full foil like an Ultra Rare, and the name is still in gold lettering, but the border of the card's image, as well as the card itself, and the attribute as well, are now also in gold foiling. This rarity would be changed as Gold Series went on, but for the initial run of the first couple of Gold Series sets, this was always referred to as Gold Series Ultra Rare. In Gold Series 5, Haunted Mine, they would release Gold Series Ghost Rares, which, as you can see, the image of the monster is in Ghost Rare foiling, like we just talked about, but the border is in that Gold Series Gold Rare, like we talked about, and so is the stars up there for the level as well are in foil, just like a regular Gold Series, but the image, of course, is in the Ghost Rare foiling. When we get to Premium Gold, they would introduce a new rarity for Gold Series, and you can see a variation between this rarity within the set. Some may refer to it as Gold Rare and Gold Series Secret Rare, but for the sake of this video, I decided just to simplify it for Gold Rare, and as you can see, there's a more holographic Secret Rare sort of style name, but the card itself is still in foil. The Gold Series Secret Rare is exactly the same, except it has the diagonal lines on the image. And this is the rarity that a lot of people did not like and said that it was very ugly. And you can sort of see a side-by-side comparison with an old-school Gold Series Ultra Rare, and you can kind of see the difference. I think they both look okay, but I do admit that a lot of the Gold Rares make the image very difficult to see, and it would benefit from a non-Gold Series printing to kind of eliminate that obstruction a little bit. So, in the Battle Pack sets, such as Battle Pack Epic Dawn and Battle Pack War of the Giants, they would release 2 new arbitrary rarities, this one being Black Rare, which is simply just a regular rare, but instead of having foil up here, silver foil, they have a glossy black up here, so it doesn't look flat like a normal card would. It has a sort of a gloss to it, but other than that, there's no foiling on Black Rares whatsoever, and it's just an arbitrary rarity for Battle Pack format. The Starfoil and Shatterfoil, I'm basically lumping in as the same rarity, although they have different compositions on the surface of the card, and those rarities can be found in Battle Pack format as well as in Star Packs, hence the name. So this is an example of a Starfoil card right here, right next to a common. So it has a slightly glossy surface, so it can have the star foil all over the card, but other than that, there's no foiling on the star foil whatsoever. And then shatter foil is exactly the same thing, but it has little foil chunks like broken glass pieces all over, and it looks pretty cool as well, but essentially has the exact same effect and is released in essentially the same type of sets. The Noble Knights of the Round Table box would introduce a proprietary rarity just for Noble Knights called Platinum Rare, and this is a very controversial rarity among the fan base, to where there's a lot of loyal Noble Knight players, and I've talked about this in the past, how a lot of them shit on this rarity and they talk about how much they dislike it. But I think it looks pretty cool, and as a fan of that archetype, you kind of have to acknowledge that Konami does have a lot of respect for them to print a unique rarity just for Noble Knights. So this is very much the same as a gold rare in terms of which areas of the card are in foil, including the border, and the name has the same type of foil composition, but the entire surface of the card is foil. And these cards are still pretty easy to keep in good condition and not have them warp or bend too bad, which is pretty awesome. But yes, the entire surface of the card is in this sort of metallic silver or platinum color. And it can obscure the surface of the card a little bit and obscure the artwork, but in general it does look pretty cool, and again is unique specifically to the Noble Knight of the Round Table box. The Platinum Rare did have a follow-up, though, in the form of the 2015 Collector's Tins. The promo cards in the 2015 Collector's Tins, the Odd Eyes, Pendulum Dragon, and Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon, feature what we call Platinum Secret Rare. And so this has the exact same foil composition as the Platinum Rare that I just showed off, but it has the Secret Rare diagonal lines throughout the entire card. So again, this one, it does look quite cool, but again, it obscures the artwork quite a bit, and you would definitely do better with a regular Secret Rare Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon, but it is quite a cool contrast to the regular Platinum Rare as well. For the 2019 Collector's Tins, they finally coined the phrase Prismatic Secret Rare for the sort of promo foil style Secret Rares like I talked about before. So again, these have the vertical and horizontal lines instead of the diagonal ones, and are fully in Secret Rare, as I said. And this was distinctly different than the Starlight Rare, which was introduced earlier that same year, which essentially has the exact same foil composition as this, except it covers the entire surface of the card. And we broke away from having that rarity called Prismatic Secret Rare and reserved for this rarity. So in terms of Starlight Rare, I do not actually own one. I will try to show as clear a picture of one that looks realistic as possible so you guys kind of get the idea. But I do not own a Starlight Rare, unfortunately, so I can't show one on screen, so you guys will just have to take my word for it. Something I wanted to point out as well about the Vrains era is once we got to Code of the Duelist and the Vrains era and introduced Link monsters, something to note about Link monsters as well is their Link arrows do have foil on them as well, but one thing I wanted to show off here is we have a Secret Rare Tarantula from pre-Vrains era. This is an Arc 5 one from High Speed Riders, and this is one from Battles of Legend Light's Revenge in 2017. And as you can see, they changed something about foil cards post-Vrains by allowing the level, the stars here, to be foil as well as the icon up here, and they did that for all foil cards. So Super Rares, Ultra Rares, and Secret Rares now all feature foil for the level and the icon, even though it is not a new rarity. So as you can see right here, both of these are Secret Rare. However, the older one has no foiling on the level or the icon, whereas the post-Vrains one does have that. Next is the new Collector's Rare released in 2020 in the Toon Chaos set. Again, I do not own a physical copy of a Collector's Rare because they are all extremely expensive, although I would love to have a few of them, so I'll try to show some images to illustrate what they look like as best I can. And then finally we have the 10,000 rarity, which is unique to the 10,000 Dragon released in Battles of Legend Armageddon. I know I said I wasn't going to talk about the OCG rarities too much in this video, but I'll include some bonus ones in here too. The OCG has some proprietary rarities for variants of cards, such as this one, which is Normal Parallel, which is essentially just a common parallel rare, which still has that layer of glossy foil over it, even though it's essentially just a common underneath. They also have the 20th Anniversary Secret Rare, or 20th Rare as it's known, which has a little 20th Anniversary stamp down there in the corner, and also features the name in red. And again, it has Secret Rare foiling all over the entire surface of the card and just looks pretty amazing. These can be found as variants to Ultra Rare, Ultimate Rare, Secret Rare, etc. For staple cover cards in mainline sets, and then the 20th Anniversary box has some of the iconic protagonist cards all in 20th Rare. The Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game as we know it now, published by Konami and not by Bandai, was released in Japan as the OCG in 1999. We didn't get the TCG until 2002, and so we were a couple of years behind in terms of the set releases. So rather than copy the exact sets of the OCG over into the TCG, we created our own sets to start off the game, and were able to combine a lot of cards from different release sets to build our initial sets with the TCG, which means that sets like Legend of Blue Eyes and Magic Ruler had much larger card quantities than the original OCG volumes 1 through 4, etc. They didn't copy over every single card, which is why some of those basic vanilla monsters that you see in games like Forbidden Memories and Duels of the Roses have even still to this day not been imported into the TCG, because we kind of missed out at that early era where they would have been even slightly relevant. And so that's why a lot of those imports are relegated for things like tournament packs and so on. It was pretty common in the original era of Yu-Gi-Oh! For sets to have over 100 cards. The original Legend of Blue Eyes set had a structure that went something similar to this: 82 commons, 10 super rares, 10 ultra rares, and 2 secret rares. In late 2004, the set Soul of the Duelist would come out, which would start a couple of trends. This was the first set that was a direct copy of an OCG set, so the game was finally kind of synced up with itself. It would also change the set ratio to a much smaller quantity of only 60 card set, and it would change up the rarities quite a bit. So now we would go to a version that would only have 4 ultra rares in the entire set. It would eliminate the secret rare rarity altogether and would introduce the ultimate rare rarity to the TCG, which had existed in the OCG for quite some time prior to that, but this is the first time we had it here in the TCG. And so what they would do is every single rare, super rare, and ultra rare from Soul of the Duelist and the sets onward would have an ultimate rare version of it in that set. Later on in the GX era with Strike of Neos, they would keep that same formula of 60 card set, ultimate rares, but they would reintroduce the secret rare rarity back into the TCG set. But the cards that would occupy the secret rare slots were all previously non-imported OCG cards, such as structure deck cards from the light and dark structure decks that we never got. And then shortly later, 2 sets later in fact, in Tactical Evolution, they would change up the sets yet again. This time decreasing the amount of ultimate rares that were in the set, reserving the ultimate rare spot for only super rares and ultra rares, and introducing yet another new rarity called Ghost Rare. Now, Ghost Rares were only reserved for the cover card of the set. So the only Ghost Rare you could get in Tactical Evolution was Rainbow Dragon, and that would be the case with every Ghost Rare after that in the main TCG sets. Then in 2008, we changed things up yet again with the first 5D set, the Duelist Genesis. This 100 card set would decrease the rate of ultimate rares yet again, leaving the ultimate rare spot for just the ultra rares, where cards like Stardust Dragon and Red Dragon Archfiend that occupy the ultra rare spot would also have an ultimate rare version of them, but there would be no ultimate rares for rares and super rares anymore. They would also increase the rate at which we were getting Japanese imports in these sets by introducing them at lower rarities, such as commons, so we could hurry up and get those cards back into the game before they became completely irrelevant, and they had to release some kind of arbitrary product to get those cards into the game. How effective this is still yet to be seen, because even to this day we're still getting random OCG imports, because we're still pretty far behind, even though we've been getting random OCG imports in the mainline sets as commons for years now. The other noteworthy change about the Duelist Genesis is that when you pulled a holo in Duelist Genesis, you pulled a rare and a super, ultra, ghost, ultimate, whatever in addition, which decreased the quantity of commons you got and giving you more value per pack. But you were still not guaranteed to pull a holo at this stage, but when you did, you got a rare and a holo at the same time. From here, packs remained more or less the same throughout the entirety of the 5Ds era and Zexal era, with the only noteworthy changes being very subtle in the way that they made more of the secret rare slots consist of powerful archetypal cards that were competitively viable to make that secret rare spot more of the chase card spot like it was in the original DM era of the game. We had only 2 secret rares per set, so the secret rares were more sought after for actual players and not necessarily just for collectors and people who wanted to get those OCG imports. We wouldn't receive another significant change until the Arc 5 era in January of 2016 with Breakers of Shadow. This set would eliminate the Ultimate Rare and Ghost Rare spots altogether, relegating them to other side sets that were released around that time. Instead, now we would get a holo in every pack. So if you want to really date the are you guaranteed a holo in this set, is it prior to January 2016 or after with Breakers of Shadow? That is the set that introduced that as common practice. What that essentially did was a conscious decision to make the game cheaper and more accessible, which Konami was doing a lot of around that time, believe it or not. And so by making the ultra rare and super rare spots a lot more accessible to people, brought the value and the cost of the set down considerably. There wouldn't be another change after this until July of 2019 with Rising Rampage. This set would introduce yet another new rarity even more sought after than Ghost Rare. Officially, it's known as Starlight Rare, but until that term was officially coined, we refer to it as Prismatic Secret Rare by the community and by sites and OTS stores that sold cards. There are only 4 Prismatic Secret Rares or Starlight Rares in each of these sets post Rising Rampage, and they usually pick the cover card if there's a Ghost Girl in the set, or if there's one of their retrained Charmers as a Link monster. But other than that, the cards that occupy the Starlight Rare spots are chosen pretty arbitrarily, but the Starlight Rare spot is as sought after, if not more so, than Ghost Rare. And we're seeing the prices for the Starlight Rare cards well exceed that of what the Ghost Rares were when those cards were new. Nowadays, Ghost Rares are very hard to find and are getting bought out in the secondary market, so they're very expensive. But back in the day, if you were to compare a Ghost Rare when it was new to a Starlight Rare when it's new, the Starlight Rare clearly is worth a lot more money. Then, of course, in 2020, with the set Toon Chaos, we got Collector's Rare, which, again, I don't have a physical Collector's Rare to show you guys, and the Collector's Rares were chosen out of that set pretty much arbitrarily. There's an arbitrary number of them, and we don't know at this stage if there's going to be more Collector's Rares in the future, but it seems like they focused on the most impactful cards that were new to that set, as well as cards that historically have a very high price collectible version of them already in existence, such as Stardust Dragon, Blackluster Soldier, and Chaos Emperor Dragon. The prior of which, like I said, with Stardust Dragon, the Ghost Rare and Ultimate Rare versions of fetch a very high price already, so giving that the Collector's Rare spot was definitely a good choice. And the final brand new rarity we have for the TCG is the 10,000 rare. So there's only one card that has the 10,000 rare, and that of course is the 10,000 Dragon released in Battles of Legend Armageddon. So this is only one card that occupies that rarity, but it's worth mentioning because it is a new rarity in the TCG. If you guys have any other questions about rarities, let me know. I definitely want to talk about structure decks and how they changed the rarities within structure decks as well, because initially they had like an Ultra and 2 Supers, and then they went to just 1 Ultra, and now there's like 3 Ultras and like 6 Supers or something crazy like that. I want to talk about that eventually, but that's not quite as exciting as what we talked about today. So let me know if you guys have any questions, and I'll see you guys next time. If you guys enjoy nerd-related content about cosplay or anime conventions, or any of the niche fandoms that we're into, like Type Moon, Fire Emblem, or Yu-Gi-Oh!, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content and like our Facebook page. Also, if you want more updates, follow me on Instagram, and if you enjoy art streams, such as what Michelle does, follow her on Instagram as well. Also, if you like mecha, make sure to subscribe to Starcrossed Soul Zoids for more mecha-related content. Thank you guys so much.